going on, guys? Alan here with DustyHikers.com, and as promised, I've got a new 5-shoe review where I take 5 shoes into the Dusty Hikers Advanced Footwear Research Laboratory, aka my garage, and I test them against each other on a number of metrics and then share with you guys which one is the winner. So as I did last year, I tested the shoes for comfort, grip, time to dry, and protection underfoot. So let's get right into it. The shoes that I tested this year are the Vask Satoru Trail LT. These are the first Vask that I've ever worn, and they're quite different than the 4 other shoes. The next one is the Merrell MQM Flex 2. These are the exact same shoes that I tested a year ago against 5 other shoes, and these are the ones that won. These are the shoes that I love. These are the shoes that I've been wearing for the last year. I also tested the Merrell Moab Speed. All of these shoes are in the low version, by the way. These are phenomenal shoes, and I knew the moment that I put them on that I was probably going to fall in love with these. In fact, I did. I also tested the Adidas T-Rex Swift R3. I was really interested to see what Adidas had to bring to the table as far as hiking footwear, and I was pleasantly surprised. Finally, I gave Salomon another try. I tested the Salomon Outline GTX last year and hated them. So this year I tried the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aeros, A-E-R-O, not A-R-R-O-W. They're decent shoes. I think a lot of people are gonna like them, but I didn't like them at all. All right, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the first test that I did was slip or grippage or grip. And so what I do is I have a suspension strap trainer in my garage, and I put the shoes on and then just start backing my toes up until like this. So I'm kind of like on my toe until they start to slip. So the point where they start to slip, where I can't hold it anymore, I just kind of back it up a little bit to where I can hold that position. And then I just wrote down the line there that I was on as far as the inches. The shoe that was able to go out the farthest, I just put that at 0, and then all the other shoes that failed before those, I just go by inches from that point forward. It's not surprising that Vibram outperforms everybody else. Vibram is amazing. I think Vibram won last year as well. So I have 2 shoes this year that have Vibram, the Merrell Moab Speed and the Vask Satoru Trail LT. The Vask Satoru Trail LT were the ones that won. They have this super, super grippy, interesting lug pattern. I don't know if you can see that, but they're like little micro lugs, and these outperformed all of the others. Vask says that this Vibram sole is exclusive for this shoe. It's also super, super lightweight. You can see how thin that sole is right there. Anyway, these shoes won the grip test. The next shoe that came in were these these are Vibram soles again that are on the Merrell Moab Speed. So Vibram again, they just do better with their compounds. These are super grippy. Again, I walked in all of these shoes for a month, and sometimes I was on wet conditions, and you could tell a big difference between the Vibram shoes and then the other shoes, just the different solutions and compounds that they have. Okay, so we said the Vask got first place, the Merrell Moab Speed got second place, followed closely by the Merrell MQM Flex 2, which has the Quantum Grip. Yeah, Quantum Grip. These are very, very grippy. They're not Vibram, but I've been wearing these for a year, and they're amazing. They've held up very well, I would say, as well. There's a little bit of wear here on the outside, but that's a year of wearing these shoes, and they still perform very, very well in this test. Then finally, second to last for grip is the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aero. This is the Conta Grip compound. Let's see if I can find, Conta Grip. You can see it right there. These are really disappointing. I mean, Salomon, I would say, you say that these perform really well on mud and stuff like that, but for me, if a shoe is not grippy on, polished concrete like that, it's not going to be grippy on rock either. It's not going to be as grippy in mud or on wet logs or anything that you're hiking over. So I think that Conta Grip just doesn't work as well as Vibram. And I tested these 2 years in a row, and they did not perform very well. Then finally is the Adidas T-Rex Swift R3. Again, these shoes are slightly different than the other shoes. This is a very, very hard rubber compound. for low top hikers like this. It's got more of like a boot sort of sole to it. So this is a very hard rubber, and they're just not going to perform as well as the other shoes do on grip. Okay, so the way that I score these after each round is that first place will give the shoe 5 points, second place will give the shoe 3 points, so there's a drop. You really want to get first place. Third place will give the shoe 2 points, fourth place will give the shoe 1 point, and then fifth place gives the shoe no points. So after round 1, we can see that the Vask Satoru Trail LT won the grip test, so they have 5 points. Next comes the Merrell Moab Speed, also Vibram with 3 points, Merrell MQM Flex 2 with the Quantum Grip with just 2 points at this point, Salomon X Ultra Pioneer with 1 point, and Adidas Terex Swift R3 with 0 points. Hey, you're almost halfway through this video. You've already spent this much time with me on this video. Obviously, you're finding something interesting here or important for your next hiking shoe buying decision. Please consider hitting like. I also am making very in-depth videos on each one of these shoes, so if there's a shoe here that you're interested in, you're definitely going to want to go check out those videos. Okay, the next test that I did was which shoe dries out faster. I think this is an interesting test. So what I do is I just take the dry weight, I weigh all of the shoes, just one single shoe of the pair, I record that weight, and then I dunk the shoes in water for like 5 seconds, shake out the excess water, and weigh them again. Then I calculate the percent weight increase from their dry weight, and then I just keep weighing the shoes every 60 minutes, every hour, until one of them gets down back to its original dry weight, and that's the winner. And so you can see the results here on this graph. The Adidas Terex Swift R3 are much heavier shoes, and I think they also use harder plastics. They just have material in here that just does not like to soak up water, and they're also quite heavy. This is all hard plastic. Feel that? You can hear that. All this stuff around here is all hard plastic. None of that's going to soak up water. It just means that they're a little bit clunkier and kind of more boot-like, but they perform very well in this test because they're not taking on as much water simply because of the materials that they're made out of. Surprisingly, the Vask Satoru Trail LT performed second best in this test. These are extremely, extremely lightweight shoes. Just feeling the shoes, this is the heaviest one. There's a very, very obvious difference in weight. These shoes are also black, and when I put them out to dry and I weighed them every 60 minutes, I think being black, these shoes probably heated up a little bit more quickly, and that may have allowed them to get rid of the water faster. Then the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aero and the Merrell MQM Flex 2, they've performed similarly, I would say, in the time to dry test. The shoes are also quite similar as far as the way that they're made and the weight and the materials that they use, so that's not surprising. And then the shoe that did the worst on this was the Merrell Moab Speed. So this is my favorite, but they did not perform as well on time to dry. So I think the consideration here is if you're going to be in an environment hiking a lot where you think that your shoes are going to get wet and you don't want Gore-Tex, having a shoe that's going to dry out more quickly is going to provide just a better experience for you. If your shoes get wet and it takes like 4 days for them to dry out, you're just going to be, I think, more miserable. Okay, so after round 2, we can see that the Adidas Terex Swift R3 now have 5 points. The Vask have 8 points, so they're beating all of their shoes at this point. My favorites, the Merrell MQM Flex 2, only have 2 points. Merrell Moab Speed have 3 points. So we have two more tests to do: foot protection and comfort. Okay, next test. Which shoe provides the most protection underfoot? Okay, so what I do here is I put a different shoe on each foot, and they just have a head-to-head competition. I put a rock out in my patio, and then I just step on that rock with each foot and decide which one between those two provides more protection, and whichever shoe wins gets a point, and the one that doesn't gets no points. So after doing a head-to-head with all the possible permutations, which I think is 8 different tests, these are the results. So the Adidas Terex Swift R3, not surprisingly, beat all the other shoes in a head-to-head competition. In fact, they won this. They got first place in this one. Again, the decision by Adidas, which is kind of surprising given that they're primarily like a sports shoe, is that they went with a very, very rigid, tough, hard rubber sole. This sole actually is made by Continental, which is really known more for making car tires, I want to say. I think it works. I was pleasantly surprised with these shoes in general, but I think that these shoes do provide significantly more protection than any of the other shoes, but it's not surprising, right? Because they're much heavier. So they opted to go with beefy and more protection versus being lighter and perhaps a faster hiker. Merrell Moab Speed and the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aero, that's a way too long of a name. These shoes performed pretty much identical. In fact, when I did the head-to-head with these, I couldn't decide which one provided more protection. They're basically the same. They're slightly different experience though. I think this one, I didn't check, but I think that the Salomon has a rock plate in it. So it provided enough protection that I couldn't feel the rock, or I felt the rock similarly to the Merrell Moab Speed, but it wasn't that it just completely absorbed the rock. It was kind of teetering a little bit. Whereas this shoe has a very, very thick, if you can see that, very thick midsole. And even a thick sole. And so the shoe actually, when I stepped on the rock, it just kind of almost seemed to absorb the rock underneath. And so I did have purchase like on my heel and in my forefoot, even when stepping on a large rock like that. And the shoe that performed the worst was the Satoru, the Vasque Satoru Trail LT. This is a zero drop shoe. It's got a very, very thin midsole for a hiker. It feels almost more like a sneaker. I absolutely love these shoes, by the way. They have this insole midsole system called Biotic, I think, and it feels really good on your foot. So I'm definitely bringing these to Italy. I'm moving to Italy in like 2 weeks, but probably going to just even wear these to work. Actually, I don't think I'd take them on a multi-day like through hike. Just because I'd be too afraid of like the bottom of my foot getting bruised by rocks. But because they don't provide awesome protection underfoot. Okay, so here are the results after round 3. The Adidas T-Rex have jumped out into the first place. They beat all the other shoes on both time to dry and foot protection. So again, they got 0 points for the grip test, but then they got 5 points each for the first place finishes in time to dry and foot protection. Second place right now is the Vasque Satoru Trail LT. With 8 points, and then the Merrell Moab Speed is in third place. The Salomon X Ultra Pioneer is in fourth place, and the Merrell MQM Flex 2 is in last right now. And those were my favorites the year before. Okay, last and final test, and perhaps the most important test, which shoe is the most comfortable? Okay, so again, I wore these shoes for a month. I did at least 24 miles in all of these shoes. And in every single case, when I took these things out of the box, I went on like a 6 or 7 mile hike. And so I've spent quite a bit of time in these shoes. And so I would just rotate. On one day I would wear one shoe, and I would wear these shoes all day. I'd wear them to work. I'd walk around at work. And so the first one is, are they, ready straight out of the box? And so all of the shoes, I felt like you could just buy these shoes, they deliver them to your house, and you could just go on a walk or a hike in all of these shoes and have 0 problems, except for the Vasque Satoru Trail LT. They have an interesting heel system here. Normally there'd be like more of a bucket back here for your heel bone, but these are quite straight, and so I got blisters on both heels when I walked in these. The first time I walked like 9 miles that first day, and I got blisters. But otherwise, these shoes are amazing, and now I don't get the blisters anymore. Okay, the next criteria for comfort was end of day comfort. At the end of the day, after I've worn these shoes all day, 12, 13, 14 hours, which ones am I really ready to get off my feet? All of these shoes are wonderful except for the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aero. So at the end of the day, all of these shoes, my foot was fine. In fact, it felt great actually at the end of the day wearing these shoes. My feet felt wonderful except for the Salomons. I was so ready to get those things off at the end of the day. They just don't really fit my foot. They have this technology called SensiFit, which Salomon says is supposed to make the shoe kind of like mold to your foot, and they're supposed to feel really good, but they just don't work for my feet. And that was the same with the Salomon Outline GTX. These shoes just, I don't know what it is, but the arch in the front, the arch support here feels like it's really far up front, and it's quite pronounced. I'd say I have like normal to low arches, but I do have an arch in my foot, and that was just uncomfortable by the end of the day. They're not as comfortable. They might be slightly narrow, and I would say if you're going to buy these, check online what people are saying. They're quite new. It might be that they're just a little bit too narrow for my foot, and that's why I'm having those issues. Okay, next one for comfort, the next criteria was heel slip. None of these shoes had any problem with heel slip. The Adidas T-Rex Swift R3 do have a slight heel slip, and I think that's just because of how rigid they are. After a month, I still experienced that, so it wasn't like, I was able to break them in and they stopped slipping on my heel. It's very slight heel slip. And again, I never got blisters in these shoes, but it would be interesting to see if I walked like 6 hours a day, 5 days in a row, if I did get blisters in these. So that's my experience. I think it's just a function of how rigid and hard this sole is. There's not a lot of give in it. Compared to the other shoes, and I think that's why my heel kind of tended to slip in these. Okay, next criteria is laces. I had zero issues with the laces on any of these shoes except for the Adidas T-Rex Swift R3. In fact, if you search these on the internet, that's what a lot of people complain about. And I just want to say, like, if you're going to spend this much time developing a shoe, you should find laces that don't come untied. These laces just love to come untied. So I would have to double knot these and cinch them down really hard. To a lesser degree, the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aero also had lace issues. I don't know why it is, but these as well, I would have to, double knot them and cinch them down really tight. Otherwise, I'd feel like they were sort of coming undone a little bit. But for the other shoes, I had zero problems. Okay, the last criteria for comfort is footbed. That's just sort of how squishy it is, how comfortable my foot felt in there. And again, all of these shoes are great, but some of them are better. So as far as footbed, the only one that I really had problems with was, again, the Salomon X Ultra Pioneer Aero. All the other footbeds are adequate or even wonderful. I would give special shout out to the Biotic footbed from the Vasque Sartoro Trail LT. Those feel very, very nice on your foot. Again, I don't think I'd choose those on a long multi-day hike, but they do feel wonderful to wear. Okay, finally, the results after 4 rounds testing for grip, time to dry, protection underfoot, and comfort. The Merrell Moab Speed wind up with 14 points total, with 1 first place, 2 second places, and a last place. These are great shoes. I think they're going to work for a lot of people. I knew the moment that I put them on that these were going to be the winners, and in fact, they turned out to be the winners. Okay, that is this year's edition of testing 5 hiking shoes and picking the best one. I am probably going to go on a through hike from Bologna to Florence after I move to Italy. There's a wonderful through hike called the Way of the Gods, or La Via degli Dei, and I'm definitely going to bring these shoes with me, the Merrell Moab Speed. Hey, here at Dusty Hikers, this is what I do. I buy shoes, walk around them in them for a long time, put them in my advanced footwear research laboratory, aka my garage, test them, and then share the results with you guys. I also have hiking videos that I'll be uploading, and so if that's something that you're interested in, please hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.